What's up, everybody? I've got Daniel Tejada here, Straight Up Growth, here with my man Adam. Adam, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody here?
First off, thanks for having me. I'm stoked and humbled anytime anyone wants to talk to me outside of my family. I'm Adam Brown, president and founder of Circle Media, social strategy firm based in Manhattan, New York, that works with CPG and beverage brands to help them win the social journey and meet customers in store and online.
Awesome. Yeah, super duper excited to have you on here today. Uh, I think let's jump into it. One of the big questions I've been having recently, as we obviously a lot of uncertainty regarding like recession here, but people are still buying, right? Like I know like in January, I think 4 brands that were up, 200% year over year there. So I feel like it's kind of like this strange time where some brands are trying to accelerate, some brands, it seems like they like don't have the same funding that they want it, or they don't have the same dollars to spend that they normally have there, but their sales are there. So I'm curious what you guys are seeing from like from the e-com side of things.
I mean, most of our business, and it's interesting that you said on e-com, right? A lot of people assume that since we're a social agency, social means digital, digital means e-com, we're e-com guys.
Yeah.
I would actually say we are not. Like we don't do any work on e-com. If a brand has e-com aspirations or wants to drive revenue, that's a performance agency. That's not us. So we don't even get involved. We work opposite great performance agencies, and opposite great Amazon agencies like you. I think we share a few clients. So, just to give some context for my answer. So my answer would be behavior changed, right? Like behavior was changing for better for you. That's the category I'm in going into the pandemic. In the pandemic, a lot of people were adventurous and cooking at home and buying condiments and products and beverages and alcohol and all these different things, just doing a lot of that at home. And then there was like a resurgence flip of people started going out again and enjoying it. But I think it's like right sized itself to people are still trying to care about what they put in and on their body. You asked me before this how I'm doing today, and I said like I'm superb or excellent or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just did like a infrared bed therapy session that someone bought for me for my birthday, and it's like a few years ago, people would have bought me like a bottle of alcohol or maybe
Yep.
apparel, I don't know. And now I'm like, IV, infrared, cryotherapy, cold plunge, like that's where the world is.
Yep.
So I think that's remain where if you're buying, you maybe spend a little bit more to get organic or well-sourced products and have them in your home if you entertain or if you consume them yourself. And again, now I say that as a New Yorker, you live in San Diego or you guys are out of San Diego, like that's not always representative of everything in
Sure.
between.
Sure.
But most markets we see, and including retail markets, Texas, down the Atlantic coast, down in Florida, like all over, there's turns happening in the better for you space, and people are still being a little bit adventurous. I just think there's a little bit more storytelling so that your brand stands out for a person to shell out maybe that extra dollar that's going to impact their receipt. So we're seeing a lot of like more selective, and I think a little bit more important, at least on our end, for brand name and reason more than just a commodity.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense too. Like what is it? I think Walmart's the like uh the company that sells the most organic products or something like that
It's
in the
crazy.
US there, which is pretty wild to think of. But I think you really nailed it. Like, COVID, I think, accelerated, let's say, to the number of brands getting into the healthy food space. And so I think there was this period of like pretty much all you have to do is list an item that has some healthy features, and all of a sudden you're killing it. But eventually it just reaches a point where like you have to distinguish yourself there. And like for us, like content is king, is something that I always like to say, especially for higher price point items there and being able to like really justify like why, right? Like there's a big reason for that. But on your end, how would you say like what are some of the things that have really worked from like a content perspective on kind of creating that value for some of these brands here?
I mean, I've been saying it for years. I think the most important asset type for early stage CPG and beverage brands are motion graphics. It's something we really focus on. Just as just like a general overriding statement, like why lemon perfect? Why are cold pressed lemons good? Like before I told you they were good, you probably wouldn't even have thought of it. What's in it? what's not in it, where you should buy it, is it refrigerated, is it grab and go. A lot of that storytelling needs motion, typography. You need to tell the story, especially for retail. Less so for Amazon, maybe even less so for D2C. D2C, I can say, lemon, try it, buy 12, get the 13th Baker's
Yeah.
dozen, buy one, get one. Like, I could do some salesmanship. With the store, I just want to get like a lot of awareness so that next time you're in the store, you grab it, you're like, I'll try it. And so I think it just gives layered nuance to content. And it's really good for us because we have 6 motion graphics animators on staff. They're hard to find because they're introverts, headphones on in a system, as opposed to photographers who are often extroverts and you can find on Instagram. So whenever we go through an interviewing season, I hire any of them. So like if we're looking for one, but I see 3, I'm like, just get them because you
Yeah.
need them. And it's something that a brand would never nor should ever have on staff because it's an expensive salary to have a motion graphics animator on full-time staff. But it's mission critical type of content that I think brands need for their Amazon store, for ads, for organic, for whatever. So I'd say that's a big one. Conversely, which I'm sure you guys have seen, anyone in performance marketing, has been the rise of UGC, but really PGC. So I'll ask every brand. I spoke to a brand this morning. They're like talking about all these things, and I'm like, they're like, we don't like the stylized stuff. We're much more UGC, which is
Yeah.
brands go like whatever. It's not one or the other. It's both. But they'll say, and I'm like, well, what's the biggest pain point for you from UGC? And they're like, man, like it's never like exactly what we wanted because it's UGC.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so you need PGC if you're targeting a metrosexual male who lives in New York, the type of, socioeconomic background that I have to go buy a Lemon Perfect.
Right.
Then you might need somebody who looks like me.
Right.
Who's like, oh my God, this is the best thing like scripted. And they don't even know what PGC is. 9 out of 10 are like, I don't even know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of what you're seeing on the Magic Spoons, on the hydrants, on a lot of these like high volume performance marketing videos, those are not usually real. Those are usually scripted. And so I would say to any brand, like if you were my brother or sister, even if you don't hire Circle, you need to solve for PGC to do your heavy lifting for top funnel, mid funnel, down funnel, and some of your just organic content.
No, and it really just like I think you absolutely nailed it. I've even seen a big rise on like firms that are kind of offering some like paid UGC there, like the where you especially where you can set the parameters, right? And they'll find the influencers for you that kind of match your what's called your targets and things like that. So I've seen quite a few of those. Yeah, but it's definitely I mean you can tell, right? It's like it still has that authentic feel, right? But it's basically like they're just saying exactly what they should say to actually
Totally.
get this
It's needed. It's a building block. It doesn't need to be your whole strategy. And if you're a believer, because some brands are fundamentally, like philosophically, anti-influencer.
Sure.
So like they'll say hey, I know like you're going to do a deep dive into our brand. You're going to draft an influencer strategy. We're going to save you the time. We don't believe in influencers. And I'm like, it doesn't even make sense. So let's call it schminfluencer. If I could get a schminfluencer to take your product beautifully off the shelf, taste it, and talk about your USPs, and it was free, you do it. So would you do it for $1? Would you do it for $5? Right. So it's like, it's a silly conversation. We just believe influencer is like a horizontal that's going to benefit all parts of your business. And we usually will use a different name so that they don't get caught in the weeds on like not liking influencers to get what they need for their efforts.
No, and at the end of the day, it's like, it really doesn't matter how good your product is that you're selling, right? There, people can't find you. If people don't know to look for you, they're not going to purchase, right? At the end of the day, there, it's like, I've had folks for Amazon when they're like, oh, we don't believe in advertising, and it's like, well, you are limited by the amount of traffic or sessions you have right towards that item, and so if your sessions are low, like it does not matter what you do, like until you turn on ads, you are just not going to increase that number, right? Or until you create branded volume. Brand awareness. It's like I've had folks who said that they don't believe in something. Amazon has a platform called DSP there, which is basically a digital billboard, right? And someone was like, "Oh, I just don't believe it works." And I'm like, "Well, why does Coca-Cola run a billboard ad, right? Like at the end of the day, it's for a fundamental reason, right? This is a long established thing, like the law of sevens there, and it's just like, yeah, people are interesting to say the least.
Totally.
Cool. Well, what else you guys seen working really well these days, or anything like really stand out or interesting?
I mean, I think our retail velocity playbook just works. We've been doing it for a decade. We really converted over to CPG and beverage only in like 2018, which was a really smart choice at the time. And most of these brands, like I would say, like we're really good at what we do. We've been doing it a long time. We haven't strayed. We're not a jack of all trades. We have like 3 or 4 services, and we just want to be best in class at those. And that's included organic social media management, which we think includes like bottom up influencer. And like I said, while we're not a performance marketing agency or an Amazon agency, and there's a million really good ones that do that, there's very few that are like retail velocity support ninjas. And the main reason is that the data and the money are on Amazon and performance. And if you're good at what you do, you can crush, and like everyone wants that. But almost every store we work with is retail first. A lot of our brands are retail only. So if they're retail only and they do like under $20,000 a year in website sales, then they have to support it. And that means, supporting it with what we call sort of like a military strike, in-store foot traffic. So local gifted influencers, local negotiated paid influencers going in, doing all the things we just talked about, using it, taking it home, not just smiling with it, but like drinking it, full rights usage, table stakes, have to have full rights usage, ability to whitelist and run ads in their account, table stakes, has to. And a lot of influencers don't do either. And that's great. That's good for their business model. Just doesn't work for our brands. Because once you have that, we actually are very strong believers in not overpaying for influencers' reach, since they don't reach their audiences anyway. I'd rather save that money and put it towards paid dollars that are going to guarantee reach at a targeted consumer. And so we try to find those right players. We have a huge Rolodex given our specialty, of like, this is the type of person that lives near an HEB in Texas and will go in and do all the things we want, then allow us to run the ads for the foot traffic, and then have the aerial support of ads, motion graphics, UGC. So we're hitting 7, 8, 9, 10 times in that area of getting people there. And then I think adding in platforms like Aisle or Velocity or Social Nature, other like retail velocity support things, and then rinse and repeat. So that is a proven winner. The brands that get it and do it. Some brands don't believe in it. They're like, well, I need to see the ROAS. And it's the same argument. Like, you can't get a ROAS of everything you ever do. That's analysis paralysis. So you have to sort of believe religiously that works. And we see it work time and time again. So that's what has always worked. But I think that's what's really important and working right now.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense to me. And like, the thing people don't think about, like, you're really hyper focused on CPG, right? And like, what does that mean? Everything is a consumable, right? Every single one of those new users or new buyers that you guys drive through those efforts are like, if they like the product, they're going to come back and they're going to purchase it, right? And it's like, these are higher end price points a lot of the time, right? And it's like, usually quality's up. Usually there's a very high likelihood that you're going to see. I mean, like, for Amazon, I usually say like you're seeing like a 40 to 50% repurchase rate, right? If you have an item that's selling 4.5-star reviews for the most part, like, you're going to get that customer to come back and buy at least one time, right? Unless your product is absolute garbage. And so it's just like, that ROAS argument is not always great, until people actually think about like, well, what does a new customer actually represent to you guys, right?
Totally.
Cool. No, this is super duper rad. Let's see. What is not working recently, or anything that's changed that normally historically works for you guys on the retail end there?
I think, well, on the D2C side, brands are really struggling. That we're like 100% long on Meta.
Yep.
Some of the agencies that were in Meta, I think, took a little too long to turn. They didn't get into TikTok early enough.
Yep.
And some of them, look, if the spends are big enough, you can do things that you can't necessarily do with a leaner spend. So most of the brands I see are, if they're doing it, they're at the bottom, not the top. They're not Unilever. They're reaching.
Yep.
And so, while D2C was like hot stuff in 2020 and 21, it's completely changed. And some of our clients are in like shell shock, because they are like it went from like hero to zero and they don't know what to do. So we're really saying that this is, again, why retail is important. You should also have sound D2C. Like, brands, I think that they do performance marketing, and even if they have an agency, and even if it worked in 2020, that they're an e-commerce business. And I think that most are not. Most are doing some performance traffic drivers and maybe getting somebody to convert, but no conversion optimization no subscription business, they're not thinking about lifetime value. They're thinking about ROAS and performance. And so a lot of them have abandoned it because they went from a 3-to-1 to nothing.
Yep.
And now they've given up completely. I'm a big believer you have to meet your customer where they are. You should be on Amazon, you should be in stores, you should be on their website, and all of it should be a great seamless experience. So what's not working is brands have like abandoned their like ghost town websites,
Yep.
and they're blowing it on their own website and losing that opportunity.
No, I 100% agree with that too. And it's like, I'm a big believer in the omni channel. At the end of the day, like I've got brands that start Amazon native, and all of a sudden they, they launch into like 3,100 Walmart stores or something like that, and it's like it's a big deal, right? That it doesn't just help their bottom line; it actually helps their Amazon sales go up because we start to see some brand volume increases, right? And the other way around too, I've seen brands that like pretty heavy in retail, not really much of a Amazon effort, not much of a .com. All of a sudden they start to win on like Amazon, and retail starts to like scale upwards as well, right? Like I've seen that a lot in beauty, seen a lot in food there. And it's like, I think brands should talk to each other more, or think about that, a little bit more, like in the fact that like omnichannel is very, very real. If you do it correctly, it can definitely support, the other avenue.
Look, I'm a user who knows more about this space than most people,
Yeah.
but as a human, I live in Manhattan. I went to a store. They had like 12 coffee options that were all expensive. I bought one. I liked it. I went to their website. Now I needed to like order 5 to get free shipping. I was like, nah. I went to Amazon. I'm a Prime member. I'm like, oh, I hope they're on there. Of course they weren't on there, but who was on there? Allegro, who spends a lot of money
Yep.
on coffee. Allegro. Suddenly I'm an Allegro shopper,
Yep.
and now it's easy and it's like fungible. Like, is Allegro coffee is good enough? I don't know if it's good or bad, but it was certainly good enough. And
Yep.
now I'm just getting it through Amazon. So like, if that journey got broken down because whoever that first brand was, I don't think had sound D2C strategy. I don't even remember who it was.
Yep.
They don't have sound D2C, and they didn't have Amazon at all, so they lost me. So that
No,
was a
and
mistake.
actually that's a funny one. One of our favorite little tricks we'll do is we'll find brands that are spending a ton on like their retail sales are huge, their branded volume's huge, and then they're like, oh, I don't sell on Amazon or something like that. And I'm like, perfect. I'm going to steal your traffic all day long because there's still 20,000 people a month, 30,000 people a month searching for your brand name, and
Searching
I get
for
to do top
totally,
of search, right?
totally.
Now this is
It's a missed opportunity for a lot of brands.
yeah, it's low hanging fruit, man. It's just like the defensive spend. Like I tell brands, even if it's not going to be a focal channel for you, you should still be thinking about it, right? It's the same reason, like, like why does Red Bull have all those different flavors of Red Bull, right? Like they don't make money on half those, half the flavor variations, but it's so that they could take up more real estate, in the aisle, right? There. That's what I think of, when it comes to all your different channels, right? You should always be trying to get into whatever you can just to meet your customer, where they're at there.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, Adam Brown from Circle Media. I feel like this has definitely been a super, super, super helpful chat here today for everybody. How can people get in touch with you? Obviously, LinkedIn. What else is a good way to find you?
Yeah, I mean, my number one is LinkedIn. Just for a plug for LinkedIn, we do no sales, no marketing. We never have. We spent under $100 total in 11 years.
Not bad.
And yeah, it's knock on wood. Hopefully that continues. But my number one resource, other than referrals, and it's a very small, incestuous business. Do great work, you get referred. But LinkedIn, and I never sell. I never message people. I never send sales pitches. But it's like a really amazing resource for meeting people, putting out thought leadership, and getting business. So I know that's not what you were asking. I was giving a plug for LinkedIn, but I'm on
Hey, I
I'm
love
on
it too.
LinkedIn. That's the easiest place. You'll see me as an avatar. That's me. And then we are at Circle Media on every platform. That's Circle with an S, like social Circle Media on any social platform. Hit us up. We'd love to communicate and catch up.
Love it. Yeah, super, super rad. Are you gonna be at Expo?
I will be. We'll be there Thursday, Friday. Just military strike on that building. Try to get as many
Yeah, dude, we've got
meetings, handshakes, and high fives as we can.
there'll be like 7 of us here as well. So maybe we'll see you in person
We'll,
there
we'll
next
meet
week.
up for sure. We'll meet
Yeah,
up for
super
sure.
excited.
Thanks for having me.
Later, Adam.